Hello guys, Be here with lalalandcrafts, and today we're going to be making a card. This time it's going to be a square card. I love square cards. I think you can fit so much into them. And for this card we're going to be using so I have here Disco Marci and Disco Luka. I want to fit them both into my card. Let's cross our fingers that I can actually fit them both. If I cannot fit them both, I'm just gonna use Disco Marci, but I will try to fit both of them. And then this is the sentiment I'm gonna be using, Get Your Groove On. I'm also gonna be using this stencil from the shop. This is the on the wall stencil, and we're going to be making a little scene for them. We're going to use both stencils for this, and we are going to be using the disco ball dies and the boombox die and the cassette tape die. So yes, there's a lot that is going to be going on in this card, and I'm super excited to do this. I have chosen my color palette to be red, gray, and pink. Let's see how this turns out. I am thinking that because I'm posting this video, it turned out okay. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing, we're going to be using our stencil, on the wall stencil. So what my idea here is to create a floor, right, and a wall. So I'm gonna do the floor with the stone stencil and the wall with the brick stencil. For this, I'm gonna be using the Hickory Smoke distress ink for my floor, and then for my wall I'm gonna be using picked raspberry for the outside and a Spun sugar for the middle part. One of the things that we're gonna do before I speed up is that we want to divide here our floor from our wall. Okay, so for that I'm going to be using masking tape. You can use painter's tape, or you can use any other tape that is not going to damage your base for your card. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. You are going to cut up just a piece of masking tape and add it to the bottom part of your card to create the wall, and then to the top part to create the floor. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so for this part of the card, you'll see that your stencil is a little bit smaller than the base of your card. Just make sure that you line it up with a little bit of the stone part outside the card or right at the edge of the card, and then you can line up your stencil again with the other side. And for this, I suggest that you use a smaller brush or blender brush than the regular one. So let's go ahead and do that. While I was doing this part, I was thinking also that you don't have to do the stone perfectly with the same shade of gray, because stone is not the same, you know, it varies in colors. So you can add maybe a lighter gray to some areas and a darker gray to some other areas, and it will look perfectly fine. Now this is the part where I will be repositioning my stencil. this doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. You'll see me here that I am playing with my stencil and see which part of the stencil looks best with my floor, and that's okay. You twist and move your stencil here and there and see especially how you like it and how it looks for you. I found the spot right here, so I'm gonna use my smaller blender brush for this part. And why am I telling you to use the smaller blender brush? Because I used the regular one and it was a little bit difficult. I didn't want to mess all my floor up, and you'll see that when I remove my stencil, you'll see a little bit of a mess up, but you know, it doesn't notice that much. I was putting some of dice there, so I didn't care much about it. Here I am removing my stencil, and there you go. You can see the little messed up in the bottom corner right there, and I tried to fix it, and I think I did kind of fix it a little bit. Yeah, I think it turned out okay. Now, using the same Hickory Smoke Distress ink, I will go over the top of my floor to make it a little bit like a very light grade in between the stones. I just think it looked better than leaving it just plain white. Now that my floor is done, I am removing the masking tape, and now I'm going to add the same masking tape to the floor so I can do the wall. Now for my wall, I am going to do the exact same thing I did with the floor, and I am gonna line up my stencil, and then on the other side I will line it up again to finish my wall. So at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I was going to use my picked raspberry just for the border of the wall of my card, but I decided that I'm going to do and add some of this Distress Oxide also to the middle, not just the Spun sugar, but both of them, to make it look not like a perfect wall. I was also thinking, but I thought of this after I finished my card and everything was done, so I couldn't do it. But if you add some gesso or modeling paste in some of these bricks, that wall, you're gonna take it to the next level and it's gonna look so good. So if you want to try that, make sure that you tag me or something, because I would love to see how it turns out. Now let's just finish the wall. Now that I'm done with the picked raspberry, I will start using the Spun sugar in the rest of the wall. I want you to notice in this part that I didn't go all the way to the finish part of the brick. There you can see perfectly, because I wanted to position my stencil perfectly there so I could add some of the other color to that part of the brick, like a half and half, I guess. I also added again a little bit of picked raspberry in the spots that I thought it needed. You really cannot go wrong with this part. You just play with your inks and it will look amazing. Just make sure that you blend them well, and that's just the trick for Distress inks and Distress Oxide. It's just blending so it looks cohesive and not like just one color and you chopped it there and there's another color. So let's continue our wall. And my wall is finished. Now let's reveal how it turned out, and ta-da! I love how it turned out, but I noticed to the left side, you see that white space? I was removing this and I was like, oh no, I don't like that white space. So all I'm gonna do is add my stencil to that side and add some more bricks. And here I did it. As you can see, I just added a little bit of bricks there and it looks so much better. Okay, so now instead of coloring my die cuts this time, I'm gonna use cardstock. And as I mentioned before, my color palette is red, pink, gray, some black accents here and there. And I'm gonna use for my disco ball this shiny pink paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this and come back and show you. Okay, so here are my pieces finished. I added some white gel, but I think at the end, with the colors that I'm going to use for Marci and Luka, I am going to add some more splatters of color here to just add more dimension to it. And here are my pieces. And now let's go ahead and color our images. Okay, so for my coloring, I'm going to be using OHUHU markers. For her skin, I'm going to be using R27, R26, R30, WG 0.5, and for her cheeks, R110. For this part of the coloring, I am adding the light gray to this. It's gonna be the CG050, CG030, and CG020, and I'm adding it to her earrings and the belt buckle and also part of her shoes, because then I want to add some white gel to these to make them look shiny, like like. For me, disco, it's all about sequins and shiny things. So let's go ahead and finish coloring her. So I have finished coloring Marci and Luka. I just added polka dots to his shirt and to her pants with R7. And now I'm gonna use my white paint Sharpie marker to add some kind of like stippling on her shoes, his shoes, her belt, and the earrings. I also added some white marker to the boombox and the cassette, and I think, as I mentioned previously with the markers that I use to color them, I'm gonna add some stippling around for the boombox and for the cassette. And here all I'm doing is just stippling and her earrings, and this makes them look like they shine, and I love that effect, especially because her earrings are silver, and I am thinking her buckle, the belt buckle, is silver too, and her shoes have sequins and they are sparkly. So let's finish doing this and I show you at the end. And this is how they look. Oh my goodness, I love them. Now with the same tones that I use for their clothes, I'm just gonna be adding a little bit of stippling here and there in the boombox and also the cassette. I think I could add a little bit more of white gel pen. Just play around with this and have fun. There's nothing you can do here that it's gonna look bad. Just go ahead and have fun. Now with my black Micron pen, I thought it is not a cassette if it doesn't have something written on it, right? So all I'm doing here is adding LLLC for LalalandCrafts mixtape. And I will continue to add white gel pen to my pieces. Now it's time to build our car. For my car base, I have cut a piece of paper that is 12 inches by 6 inches. It is scored at the 6-inch mark on the 12-inch side. Wow, that was a mouthful of things to say. But do not worry, everything is written down in the description box below, so just check there. For this gold paper, I have cut it to 5 7/8 by 5 7/8. I think it's gonna look amazing behind my wall and floor. Oh my goodness, look how good this looks. My paper, I had to trim it down a little bit, the top paper, but it is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. Again, everything in the description box below. We are going to start gluing our paper. As always, I use my Burley Arts glue. I love wet glue for this part. So, but you can use double-sided tape or any other glue that you like and that you have at home. So we're gonna go ahead and glue the glitter paper, the top paper, and start positioning all our die cuts and Luka and Marci. Here are all my pieces, and now let's assemble the card. For Luka and Marci, I am adding dimensionals. I love playing with dimensionals of all thickness. That way your card has a different look when somebody receives it and looks that there's different dimensions and everything. I just love that. So make sure that you play with your dimensionals and use thicker ones, thinner ones to your pieces. For my sentiment, I added a little bit of that gold glitter cardstock for an extra shine, and I'm adding this with my Burley Arts glue. And this is how my card looks like. I added a little bit of red sequins just because I needed it to be a little extra. Make sure to let me know in the comments if you already purchased these images and dies. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.